Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to ask one more brief question. Mr. Selig, one of the things that I've seen in my short years in and around government is a tendency when there's a whiz-bang new program, it's to brag about how many people are being helped by the program so we can justify the program. And the 40% verification rate that you mentioned troubles me a lot. I'm certain that a larger percentage will ultimately be verified. But, you know, as someone who answers directly to the hardworking taxpayers at home and has to go face those people on a regular basis, the fact that we spent $140 million on a program that, at least on your initial assessment, has a 40% accuracy rate is very troubling. And I think as we look at where does that take us, one of my concerns is you've testified to us twice today that there's not a viable alternative to Curum. And what little research I can do, and I'm certainly no expert in this IT area, there's 24 states using a program or a company called Corticon to do what looks to be the same thing, at least on the surface. Why are they not a viable alternative, and how have we continued to go down a road with $140 million of hard-earned taxpayer dollars on something where at least it appears there is some sort of viable alternative?
Representative Bell, did you say Corticon?
Yes.
I've not heard of that company, and that is what the Gartner Group is looking at, is whether there's an alternative. I can tell you on the calls that I've been on with CMS and just in meetings with other people, I don't believe I've ever heard that name. I'm not saying there's not an alternative, just there hasn't been one presented to us that is a clear way to go. I think if there was, I think Department of Information Services or somebody else would have told us really need to look at it. I think the Gartner Group, I mean, they're an independent group that's, I think, you're not selling anything, they're just doing the evaluation. I think they'll give us a good read on that. And I would say on the 40%, the cost of this eligibility system and that 40% rate, that's frankly about what our staff expected to see off the bat. I mean, the good news is, if in fact it turns out a lot of those people, you know, have gotten better jobs and are moved off the program, that'll be terrific. What we expect is a lot, as you said, a lot of those people will respond to us and say, here's the information you needed. So I think probably a month from now, we'll have a pretty good read on how many of those people, and I don't think I told this committee, we are starting with the highest income people in the independence program, those between 100 and 138. So they are most likely, we hope, to have improved their lot in life and moved off the program. As we move down those income levels, probably the number of people who move off will be lower. And then there's just people on the regular Medicaid program. So a month from now, I think we'll have a pretty good read on at least the higher income people in the private option, how many of those are still on the program. But I hate to speculate now.
And certainly, and I understand it's very, very early numbers. I just, as your vendors start to come up, I hope that we can get some answers as to why 24 states appear to be using Corticon to do something similar, and I've heard no major issues, yet we see repeated failures on Curum. And so maybe your vendors will be in a better position to directly respond to that
Sure.
question. And I'd just like to say, you know, all of us up here, as we answer the folks back home, we have to keep in mind that CMS money you referenced earlier comes out of their pockets, and that it directly impacts their livelihoods. So just keep that in mind with your decisions, please.
Yes.